Your body houses your soul. So we don't believe the body is bad and the soul is good and you battle. We believe that you're a team. But are you the horse or are you the rider? But you have to lead with your soul. Because if you lead with your body, your soul will never be happy. But if you lead with your soul, your body might kick and scream at the beginning, but eventually will fall in line.
Welcome to the I Own It podcast with Ben Reinberg.
All right, we are live from Laguna Beach, California at the Ben Reinberg I Own It studios today. And this week we just keep rolling out incredible women coming on our show. And the train just keeps rolling. It's just unbelievable. And I'm really excited today, everyone, for our guest that's coming on, this mystery guest. And some of you might have not heard her, but she is quite the lady. When we start talking to her, I think you'll understand what I'm talking about. Lori Palatnik, thank you so much for joining us today and welcome to the show. You own it. You own it, and that's why we have you on. So thank you.
Okay.
So let's get into it. So Momentum has an interesting mission to foster growth and connection for women in the Jewish community. And so let's get started and share more about why Momentum was founded and how are you supporting women's personal growth with your organization?
So I'm the founding director. This all started in 2008 in the Washington, D.C. area with me and 7 other women. I became a speaker in the Jewish world, and I was traveling around the world and seeing that Jewish communities were not getting stronger, they were getting weaker. And in our decades of work, my husband and I, in Jewish communal work, we know that a community lives and dies by where the women are at. In general, there are exceptions. The 3 most important decisions a family will make now that will affect a family now and for generations are primarily in the hands of the mother. What are those questions? What are those decisions? Where do we live? What school do our kids go to? Who do we socialize with? So the idea of focusing on women, not just because 8 women started this, we didn't decide to focus on the Jewish mother because we're a bunch of Jewish mothers. We did it because it's strategically smart. You get the mom, you get the family. I used to speak at Yale and Brown and Penn and AU and all the major universities and colleges. And I found more and more that if I inspire a 21-year-old boy, I inspired a 21-year-old boy, but he's a 17-year-old sister and a 14-year-old brother and parents. You get the mom, you get the family.
Well said. So you spend a lot of time focused on Jewish education. And my sense is that most non-religious Jews have pretty limited knowledge of Jewish teachings, especially those who learned in Hebrew schools for reform/conservative movements. Do you agree with that? And how does that influence your approach to Jewish education?
You know, I grew up in Toronto. I know you grew up in Chicago. And my husband also grew up in Chicago. I grew up in Toronto, going to after-school Hebrew school. And on Sunday, we called it Jew jail. It was like, oh, it's Sunday. It's Jew jail day. My husband said in Chicago, they called it the 13 and out club. Okay, you go to your 13, you've done your time, and I'm out of here. Our bar and bat mitzvahs of our generation became our graduations out of Judaism instead of what they're supposed to be, which is our graduations in. Jews don't leave Judaism because of what they know, it's because of what they don't know. And Jews don't turn their back on Israel because of what they know, it's because of what they don't know. This is the first time in history that Jews are free to go. They're not trapped in any country. They're like, everybody's free to go. Russia, Ethiopia, Syria. So it's no longer let my people go. It's let my people know. And unfortunately, the after-school Hebrew school system turned more of us off than on. And it wasn't until my mid-20s or my early 20s that I took a second look at my Judaism. And I saw that it's not milk and meat and men in robes walking through sand dunes. It's got wisdom in it to help you make the best choices, to realize your potential, and to have the greatest pleasure in this world.
Wow, that's well said. I love that. Yeah, I mean, you're talking to a man who used to ditch Hebrew school for blizzards and ice cream cones. And so I understand the sentiment. I wasn't a big fan of Hebrew school when I was a kid. And was always painful. American Jewish assimilation rates are very high, with intermarriage trends rising substantially in recent years. Is this something you worry about, and why do you think it's happening? I wanted to ask you this, and how does it impact your mission of Momentum, your organization?
I don't know about you, but when you hire people or when you get a job, if you've ever had a job where you didn't have a job description, it's usually the beginning of a disastrous relationship, because you think you're doing a good job, but they don't think you're doing a job. But what? But because there was no job description. If you don't have a job description, how do you know if you're fulfilling what you are hired for? How do you know that you're succeeding? So the Jewish people were given a job description at Mount Sinai 3,500 years ago. Or Ligorium, light unto the nations. That we're supposed to be a moral light to the world. And if the world is going down, if the world is collapsing, if families are not getting stronger but getting weaker, if there's high divorce, if there's war, it means we're not doing our job. God loves all the nations, just like I love all my kids. Do you have kids, Ben?
I do. I have 3 kids.
So I'm sure you love all your kids, but Absolutely. Your oldest one, that one changed your life forever. You weren't a father before that. You didn't feel that love. It changed your life. It rocked your world in every way. So we're like the oldest child for God. God loves all the nations, but we have a special relationship with God. But just like your oldest does have a special relationship. I don't know if you're an oldest in the family, but the oldest usually has more responsibility than the others. They're expected to be an example to the others. And that's us, the Jewish people. We have a special relationship with God, but it comes with responsibility. We're supposed to be a moral light to the world. That's our job description. We don't even know why we're here. We're here for bagels. We're here for lox and cream cheese, for Seinfeld, for like what? Like what is our role in the world? What does it matter if there are Jews in the world? Just marry a nice person. Be a good person. Growing up, being Jewish was dreidel, dreidel, dreidel. The Passover Seder seemed to get shorter and shorter every year. Mm-hmm. And my brother's bar mitzvahs were more bar than mitzvah, if that sounds familiar to you.
Exactly. Yeah, it was more of a social gathering instead of a religious gathering.
Well, I was blown away in my early 20s to find out that the Torah is bursting with wisdom for every aspect of our life. How to marry the right person, how to have a successful marriage, how to raise great kids, how to realize your potential, how to be successful in business. It's all in there. But you have to read it. We're the people of the book who never read the book. We saw the movie. The book is always better than the movie. We're the people of the book. We have to read it. We have to learn it. We have to integrate it. And we have to model it for the world.
The question of identity and how we identify ourselves is an interesting philosophical question. And I've been thinking about it, that you've written about a number of occasions, like why some Jews leave Judaism. Explain to me and our audience, share more about how you approach helping others connect deeper with their identity. I think a lot of us struggle with it, no matter what your religion is. What does that mean to you?
Everybody, all the studies show that if you tell stories to anybody, Jewish, non-Jewish, you tell stories of your family. If you have family stories, family legends, like generations, those kids that you're telling the stories to are less likely to get into drugs, to go to jail, to mess up. Why? Because you feel part of a people. You feel part of a people, and you feel part of a people. You're proud, and I bear their names, and we stand for something, that we mean something in this world. And so when you feel part of a people, one of the things we do on Momentum, just to give you a little understanding of what it is. And for those who are interested, you just go to momentumunlimited.org. We've created what many have called, it's like a birthright for mothers. So we have brought over 22,000 Jewish mothers from 34 countries to Israel for an 8-day transformational experience with a 1-year follow-up back in their home city. And we do this in partnership with organizations around the world. We have over 300 partnering organizations globally, including Israel's Ministry of Diaspora Affairs. So when the women come and have this experience, again, it's for over half the women have ever even been to Israel. And when we say Israel, it's like when I grew up, like Israel was long ago and far away. It wasn't so real. It is the most unbelievable country, bursting with entrepreneurship and the startup nation, and just things are rapidly being invented, especially things to help the world, like unbelievable things to help humanity. Because the Jewish people know that we're here to make the world a better place, not for our bank accounts, for the world, because we're here to, in partnership with God, to create a beautiful world. But the world's a mess. It's a mess. So this experience that they have, this feeling when they come, because they're coming, we don't do all Spanish speaking and all Russian speaking and all English speaking. We have them together. Like obviously on the buses, they'll be all Spanish on one bus. There'll be 600 women at a time. There'll be 12 buses, 3 groups of 4 buses each, and they're traveling around and having experiences together. And you feel part of a people. Like, wow, I don't know where your ancestry is from, Ben. Like on my side, we're classic. Like on my father's side from Poland, on my mother's side from Russia. Why did some of these women? Why do they speak Spanish? Like their ancestry was not from that Spanish-speaking country, because when we had to flee Europe, it depended on what boat you got on. We once had an experience on a momentum trip. It was like on a Friday night. Friday night we had Russian speaking, English speaking, and because during the week we have simultaneous translation, but on Shabbat, on the Sabbath, we don't use electronics, and so I would speak in sound bites, and I would have somebody beside me translating into Russian. And I heard that the Canadians, and I'm Canadian,
right?
The Canadians were upset. They were frustrated because it took so long Friday night because we had to translate everything into Russian. Really? The next morning, I had 400 women in front of me, and I said, how many of you here are descended from Russian Jewry? Put up your hand on either side of your family. I said, you know why? That you got to grow up in Toronto and in Vancouver and in New York and in Los Angeles and in Cleveland with all the opportunity and all the prosperity and all the freedom because your bubby got on the right boat.
That's right. My
Look, our bubbies didn't get on a boat, and that's your sisters here in Russia. Ben, where's your family from?
Yeah, my grandfather he was part of about 10 kids, and he escaped from Poland, the Holocaust, and if it wasn't for him, and God rest his soul, he was an incredible man. I wouldn't be here today, and I wouldn't be the man I was. It's amazing. I saw a picture of him the other day, and it's amazing how much I look like him now.
Wow.
And it's the same hairstyle and everything, how I've morphed into my grandfather, who was just an incredible man. I got my entrepreneurial spirit to him, and I owe a lot of credit to him, and what an incredible person and influence he was. Let me just recap for everyone they know. So Momentum is an organization, and it organizes a number of trips each year focused on connecting with others and Jewish values and connecting with Israel. And obviously you brought up Birthright. My kids have gone on Birthright multiple times. What are the different journeys that your organization offers to Jewish women?
So our classic and our flagship is it's people sign up for a Momentum Year of Growth, which begins with this 8-day experience in Israel. But we've also created something called Momentum Grand, because some women, in order to qualify to come on this trip, and it's highly subsidized. For the woman, it's a free trip, not including airfare. So we have to raise a lot of money to make this happen. And our partnering organization puts in about 20%, and we have to raise, about 80%. And so some women, they don't qualify because you have to have children at home under the age of 18 and very disconnected from your Jewish identity in Israel. We're not here to bring women who are already sending their kids to day schools or who already are, very observant or knowledgeable themselves. We're here for the 85% of the Jews who grew up like we did, Jew jail, and your bar mitzvah is more bar than mitzvah. And they are drifting rapidly away from the Jewish people and taking their kids with them. So, but there are women who are more mature, their kids are not home under the age of 18, or who are more connected Jewishly, who also need inspiration, who also want that experience. So we created something called Momentum Grand. It's not subsidized. It's actually 5-star, nice. But both trips are a journey of the soul. It really is the most beautiful thing. And about 4 years in, after the women kept saying, my husband has to hear this, my husband has to see this, my husband and I is my husband, we created a men's trip. So if you think about picture the word momentum, the first 3 letters are mom, and then there's men, and in the middle is me. So we have trips for the husbands, for men, that are off the charts. It's not 8 days, it's 7 days. I've never seen men so emotional in my life. This beautiful, beautiful brotherhood, Ben, that's created. It's not over politics, not over money, not over sports, but really a soul connection. It's the most beautiful, beautiful thing.
Oh, I love that. And
we're also starting to do some domestic retreats. That means we're going to cities within those countries. And because during COVID, like they couldn't come to Israel, so we started coming to them. And people are asking for, like we do some specialty trips, like Mothers of Lone Soldiers, Healthcare Heroes. We're planning a trip for mothers of special needs children. And people are asking for a mother-daughter trip. So we're not a trip organization because so much happens. Most of what happens after that experience. We have online webinars and podcasts and ongoing learning and boutique learning groups. And we're creating now books. And we just launched an app called Yom, YOMM, Yom. And it's going to be the biggest social network for Jewish women globally. And we just launched that. And I just did an audiobook called Remember My Soul. You go to remembermysoul.org about soul in the afterlife and Jewish mourning, because a lot of us are starting to lose our parents and we just don't know what Judaism believes happens after we die.
So Momentum creates a lot of interesting, inspirational content I was reading and focused on connecting with others. And so I've read and watched many things that you've produced, and I wanted to ask you about some of your key messages. But before doing so, I'm curious how Momentum approaches creating content in terms of attracting eyeballs while delivering important messages.
So everything happens, everything and success happens when you know your target group. We have cornered the market on our primary target group, which is the Jewish mom. And we live and we breathe her. And we are Jewish moms, a lot of us. So we know, and that when COVID happened and COVID hit, we knew the existential pressure and the threats that were happening to our family. And if we could just keep the mom strong, if we could hold on to her, everything's going to be fine. So we know what she needs, what her needs are. She is desperate for wisdom to help her succeed in the most important relationships of her life, whether it's her marriage or her children. She is usually the mother, the woman is very other focused and giving and taking care of everybody. But the well can run dry. If I'm not for myself, who will be for me? So we're there to pour inspiration and empowerment into these moms because we know it's going to spill over. We tell the women, sometimes like, oh, how can I leave my kids and go to Israel? And I always tell them, you're not leaving your kids. You're going for your kids.
That's right. And is this like a mind-body connection? Do these women on these trips learn about spirituality and are you getting into their subconscious to promote not only inspiration, but confidence in some of these women? A lot of these women that probably go on your trip, they are mothers and they lose that sense of, but I'm also a wife and to be connected to my husband. Do you see a lot of circumstances where they're saying, I'm not really, and we're going to get into this because we got a lot to discuss today, but is this a common thread you see is that you have a lot of these women, they're raising kids, they're so entrenched into their kids, they lose touch with their soulmate. And we're going to talk about, turn your husband into your soulmate. So don't go there yet. We'll be there.
Okay.
But I will tell you that what goes on these trips, what is the spiritual adventure? What's the outcome? What are you looking to achieve with these women when they go to Israel?
So first of all, the commonality that they have is they're all moms. They're not all married. I would say 85% of them are married. Some of them are divorced or widowed or never were married, are single moms. So our goal is to point them in the right direction, body and soul. Point them in the right direction. A lot of us we're just confused, and we're spinning our wheels, and we're trying this and we're trying that, and we're faced with a lot of pressures and conflicts, and the stakes are very high in your marriage. The stakes are very high with each and every one of your children. And you can't say like, well, I have 3 kids and 2 are coming out okay, but 1, okay, well, at least 2 out of 3. No, everybody's a whole world.
Mhm.
And they say that a parent is only as happy as their saddest child. So you're there, we know, to help everybody around us realize their potential. And the number one person you have to help realize their potential is you.
That's right.
Yeah.
It all starts with that inner game. Inner game is so important. It's something I've been working on for years. And it's such a great point. And thank you for sharing that. You wrote a book on how to eliminate gossip in our lives, which I think is so important. And I'm curious, was this ever a problem that you personally struggled with? And what are the key tools you recommend to help break that habit? I see a lot of people gossiping. I don't gossip. I learned the hard way through mentors of not gossiping. It's not good to put that out in the universe. I've learned that significantly. Is this something that resonated with you, that you struggled with, and what are the tools you use?
So it was funny. This is the only one of the 4 books that I've written so far that a publisher actually came to me to ask me to write it. So it wasn't a subject that I went out there to do, but this is something that impacts every person. Would I say that I was a gossiper? At least, it's interesting. The Talmud says that 10 portions of speech came into the world when God created the world. Women took 9, and the rest of the world, bow, wow, wow, meow, 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 moo, 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 and men divided up the last 10th. So what is it saying? It's saying that women are communicators. And according to the studies, women use many, many, many more words in a day than a man. So if we open, and that's good, we're communicators. But if we open our mouths more, we can also make a lot of mistakes. And I think I grew up not knowing at all that this was anything Jewish, that how important it was, ethical speech. So it was kind of like gossip is fun. And it is fun unless they're talking about you. Then it's not so fun anymore. So, we all grew up saying like sticks and stones will break our bones, but names will never hurt me. It's not true. Words hurt. Names hurt. And people are walking around today, adults, successful adults, still scarred from being bullied. You see that like what's going on and how now it used to be like you would actually have to say it in person. Now you just have to, you could be so anonymous and just post it, just throw it out into the world, onto the internet. Young adults, teenagers committing suicide from being shamed online, or a picture is being put up there that's causing them that they're embarrassed and they're ashamed. They literally are taking their lives. Words can kill, not just hurt.
And it's one of the detriments of social media is that a lot of these kids are, it's part of the issue I have with the schools is, can you imagine if we taught communication, listening skills, how the mind really works, how to develop your inner game so you don't care what people think of you and have that confidence and that strength. And it's not taught enough in our society. And what are the key tools that you could share that you recommend to break these habits of gossiping? I always say, don't gossip about yourself because you are your worst enemy. When you start, doubting yourself or talking about yourself, that's what ends up coming outside your body of how you're projecting yourself. So what are the tools you suggest people use to stop gossiping?
It's very good, Ben, that you're saying this because this in the Torah is called Lashon Hara, evil speech.
Right.
So not only are you not allowed to speak Lashon Hara about other people or groups of people, you can't speak Lashon Hara about yourself. Like, I'm so stupid. Oh, I'm so dumb. Oh, I'm so ugly. Because God doesn't make junk. Like, you're basically telling God, well, clearly you've made a mistake. God doesn't make mistakes.
No, he doesn't.
And it's a mistake to think that. So I'm going to define Lashon Hara for you. Any form of communication that reflects negatively on someone, unless there's a positive, constructive purpose. Any form of communication.
I use that word throughout my office, and they're always wondering, because I'm the only Jew in the office, so they're wondering, what is he talking about? But I'm glad you clarified that, and I hope they all listen to hear your wonderful definition. You know, you wrote the book called "Turn Your Husband into your Soulmate." What inspired you to write this book? And do you believe most marriages can successfully elevate to the soulmate level?
So I wrote it because I actually wrote it for people who are single, so that because part of what's in there is how do you know this is the right person? So, but all of the questions that you would ask to know, is this the right person? There's actually 3 questions, or the 3 areas in a marriage you have to put a lot of time and effort into. Your marriage is the hub of the wheel of your life. So if we can strengthen that, everything else are the spokes. The kids, your profession, your work in the community, your friends, that all, but the hub of the wheel of your life. And as you were saying, like, the mistake we make sometimes is, like you get married and you're in love, and then the kids come, and then women sometimes will bump their husband down the totem pole, that their kids rise because my kids need me, and the guy gets bumped down. And I try to explain to women so strongly in that, and in the book, that he needs you too. He actually, my theory is that men need us more than we need them. Why? Here's the evidence. Let's say a couple, they've been married 59 years.
Mm-hmm.
The woman dies. What does the guy do? He remarries in 2 seconds. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So like, they're married 40, 50, men usually remarry very quickly. There's literally a lineup of women, people at the Shiva, like, they're handing him pieces of paper with women's names on it and phone numbers on it. Because a man, he can't be alone. Just like in creation, in Genesis and Bereshit, it's not good for man to be alone. So God created a woman. So a woman, what does she do when her husband dies? She goes on cruises with her girlfriends, okay? We have deep emotional relationships and connection. I can have a deep emotional connecting relationship with the woman behind me at Costco as we're checking out, and I've never met her before.
Mm-hmm.
For a man, his wife in general is the deepest, most emotional connecting relationship he'll have in his life.
Mm.
So I tell the women, he needs you. He needs you. So we need the tools to succeed in this relationship. And I'm going to share with you quickly the 3 questions you have to answer yes to know it's the right person. And in marriage, these are the 3 areas you have to put a lot of time and effort into. Okay.
Go ahead.
So, are your kids married yet, Ben?
Not yet. They're turning the corner. Eventually, they will be.
Okay. So who your kids marry is the most important decision they'll ever make in their lives.
That's correct.
College, university, that's nothing compared to because the right decision will propel them forward in life, and the wrong decision, disaster. So you want to be part of that process. You're thinking like, oh, my kid is like, they're going to meet somebody and they'll just bring them home. Like, no, you should be talking to your kids now, not just what they want, but what they need. Who knows your kids' good qualities better than you do? Nobody. Who knows your kids' challenging qualities better than you do? Nobody. Who wants best for your kids more than anybody in the world? You. So if they're asking their friends for advice about who they're going to spend the rest of their life with, they should be asking you. You should be giving advice. You should be, I remember telling one of our kids, like, I said, you need an easygoing guy. I have one daughter. We have 5 kids. One daughter, she's just like, she's not the one you want in a crisis. Okay. So she's like, I said, you just need, she could be a little bit anxious. So I go, you need a chilled, easygoing guy. And that's exactly what she married. And it's brought that out in her. She's just like, you have to know, because the whole idea of marriage is you're going to realize your potential. And you can't realize your potential if you marry somebody just like you. by a mirror, just more you. You would see that there's a yin and yang going on here, like that you're half a soul and you're yearning for completion. But when God splits you, imagine your soul is like a circle. God doesn't split you like this. He splits you like this, like two pieces of the puzzle that fit together. That means opposites do attract, not in terms of values, but in terms of temperament, in terms of other aspects of extroverts tend to marry introverts. People who are organized tend to marry people who are flighty. People who like the thermostat up marry people who like the thermostat down. Why? Because you're half a soul and you're yearning for completion. So the 3 questions you have to answer yes to. Number 1, do you have the same meaningful life goals and values? I remember a girl came up to me.
That's a tough one. Let's talk about that, because a lot of the men work and they're aspiring to careers and have certain goals. And when the woman is, like you said, and I'll bring that up, of focusing on the kids, and I'll use the word, and you could find a better word than me, but it's kind of, I guess the word's neglect, neglecting the man throughout the years while you're raising the kids. And obviously it's the toughest job in the world, raising kids, for the mother. And there's no doubt in my mind, it is the toughest job. It's a very demanding job, and the women out there deserve a lot of credit, that the hard work they put in and the inspiration they provide kids. But when you get to a point and that man is being neglected and you're trying to connect to your soulmate, it can be challenging for men out there, because there's resentment, there's shame. There is situations where, and it's why probably the divorce rate is so high. And probably a lot of men stick around and they say, well, let's just raise the kids and then I'll move on. Because like you said, to hit number 1, it's a very challenging point to be on the same page, because say the man was working, and the wife could be a career woman too. But let's just say you have a situation where the man is working and he's growing, and then he decides, you know what, I want to grow as a person. And then you hit a wall. So how do you tackle that with these women? Because you say, look, you got to connect with your guy, but sometimes the train is already past, Lori. So what do you do?
What you're saying, Ben, is very, very true and very heavy. Not a month goes by that I don't find out about somebody, one of my peers, people who are at my stage of life, who are getting divorced because they stuck around for the kids, or they didn't prioritize the hub of the wheel of your life, this relationship. So everything became the kids.
Right.
And the kids left. And then you turn to each other like, who are you? It's like a bank account. If you don't deposit, and you just withdraw, then you're bankrupt. Like there's nothing left. So when you're going through a hard time, if you're not nurturing and always pouring and prioritizing this relationship, the marriage, then when times get tough, you don't have anything in the bank. Like you don't have what it takes to get through it. You give and you give and you give to your children, and your success as a parent, if they grow up and leave you.
Exactly.
If you're 35 and living in your basement, something went wrong.
Well, my dear friend Keith Yackey was on my show recently, and he had a great analogy about how it works. Is that, it's like a bucket, and you start showing up and you're doing unattractive things. It starts leaking out slowly. And then the phrase comes out where I love you, but I'm not in love with you, which is what happens. And so you can fill back up the bucket if you do attractive things. What do you do to empower these women to say, you know what, you're not doing attractive things. This is where the issue is. You're not focusing on him.
So one of the things
what can they do?
So I share with them, what does a man need and what does a woman need? A woman needs to be loved, and a man needs to be respected. A woman wants to be respected but needs to be loved, and a man wants to be loved but needs to be respected. It is a very, very, very big deal for a man that his wife respects him. He can be the CEO of a corporation, people are bowing down to him all day long, but if he comes home and his wife doesn't respect him, this is not good.
Yeah, that causes.
And I tell them, like, why is it such a big deal that for a man that his wife respects him? I have no idea. It doesn't matter why. It just is.
Well, I feel that men need to be wanted, And part of that respect factor is wanted when you come home from a long day and know, like, I have someone that I'm shoulder to shoulder with and I feel wanted, which is love and respect. And I think that's what men want at the end of the day, is just to be wanted. It's not always about sex. And believe me, sex is important. Don't get me wrong. For all you women out there, it's really important to us men on a frequent basis, please. But we want to be wanted. It's so important to have that lens to say, why is he upset, or what is going on with them? It's because they want to be wanted. And that's a respect factor too, because when you're wanted, you feel that love and respect. And I feel that that's missing in a lot of relationships.
So I say to the women, like, imagine somebody you tremendously respect is coming over to your house. Tremendously respect. Whatever, a grandparent, the governor, like, I don't know, like insert person there. Would you greet them at the door?
Absolutely.
Would you offer them something to drink?
Absolutely.
Would you ask, like, would you sit down? Would you talk to, would you give them your full attention? So imagine Oprah Winfrey has chosen you for an in-camera, in-house, like, interview for some reason. Oprah's coming over. Okay. How does your house look? Great. How do you look? Great. Okay. So now you're on the phone with your best girlfriend. Okay. And Oprah's coming in a few minutes. You're on the phone with your best girlfriend. Oh, Oprah's here. I gotta go. Oh, good. I'll call you. I'll tell you all about it. Click. And you go over. Oprah, I'm so excited. This is the greatest day of my life. Oh, I'm so happy. Okay. Regular day, Oprah's not coming. You're on the phone with your best girlfriend. Your husband walks in.
Isn't that amazing? What a great analogy for everyone out there to understand that. Again, it goes back to that neglect. It goes back to respect.
Well, I tell them,
like Oprah, how amazing how maybe the divorce rate in Jewish couples would lower.
Can I tell you, men have told me the fact that I tell women, when your husband comes home, get off the phone, and he should hear you say, "Oh my gosh, my husband's home. I got to go." Click. What are you saying to him? You're more important than anybody else at the end of this line. And it's true.
That's right. That's
the men tell me that changed their marriage for the good more than any other counseling they ever got.
Yeah, it's very simple too. Men are pretty simple people. We're an easy read.
And women we're not easy to please. We did women's trips for 3 or 4 years.
You guys are emotional, and
we're complicated. What makes after we brought like thousands of women, and then we started bringing men. After we did our first men's trip, I called up my team. Forget women, we're only doing men. Men are so easy compared to women, okay? Like, you give them beer, you give them meat, like, they're good to go. For a woman, what made her happy yesterday doesn't make her happy today. Who she sits on the bus with is like a major deal for her. For a guy, he doesn't remember who he sat on the bus with at the end of the day, all right? It's like, so I know we're not easy, but we're worth it. We're worth it.
So I wanted to change gears and talk about spirituality, because I've become, as I've aged, very spiritual. I work on myself. I'm big into connecting with myself and knowing who the real Ben Reinberg is.
Wow.
And I've worked really hard to become that person. And you wrote a really interesting article that really connected with me. And I'm really inspired to discuss it with you. It's about health and spirituality. And the message was that it's a mitzvah. And people out there don't know what a mitzvah means. It's a good deed. And it was to take care of your body. And I think this message is a surprise for some people who might consider health and spirituality to be different domains. I am big into my health. Everyone that knows me knows I'm a health buff. I'm big into my spirituality. And it's why I enjoyed reading this interesting article. What inspired you to write about this?
Well, it's funny. Before I started my Jewish journey in my early 20s, I actually had an aerobics business. I only had this business. I studied communications and I worked in radio and in advertising. I always say I'm still in advertising. I just have a better product now. But in order to make money in Israel, because I didn't have the language back then, and I started working out with people, and I trained 2 other girls, and I was in the fitness business. And I was very relieved and very happy to hear that Judaism talks a lot about health. And Maimonides, the Rambam, was a doctor, and he talks about food combinations long before we ever got into food combinations and the best time of the day to work out. My husband really is an expert he's called the Rambam in Maimonides. And your body houses your soul. Your body houses your soul. So we don't believe the body is bad and the soul is good and you battle. Okay, that's a different religion. We believe that you're a team. But are you the horse or are you the rider? You want to harness this body to do good and to be able to contribute to the world and to live a long, healthy life. But you have to lead with your soul. Because if you lead with your body, your soul will never be happy. But if you lead with your soul, your body might kick and scream at the beginning, but eventually will fall in line. You have to lead with your soul. So when you're making a decision in life, whether it's working out, because if you decide after you're not in good shape, the idea of working out is not a body decision. It's actually a soul decision. Your body wants to be a couch potato. Your body wants to have a date with Miss Vicky's potato chips and watch Seinfeld reruns, but your soul wants greatness. So your body might kick and scream at the beginning, but after a while, if you lead with your soul, no, we're going to do this. Your body wants it and your body craves it. But if you go with your body and you are a couch potato and you lie around and you just, feeling awful and looking terrible, when does your soul kick in and say, this is great? Never.
Never. It never does. And the thing is that your mind is everything, and controlling your mind and your emotions is everything, I've learned. And I always found that when I wake up at the crack of dawn to go work out with a trainer. And when you have those days where you just don't want to show up, you don't want to go, those are the times you have to double down and go. It's the same thing in work and commercial real estate. And I'm in commercial real estate and I've been in it for over 28 years. And it's a tough business. It's sophisticated. We play in a certain space. And there's days you just don't want to show up. You don't want to make the extra call. You don't want to have to deal with someone on your leadership team. You don't want to deal with a problem at a property we own or with a person we do business with. Those are the moments that separate people when you got to show up. And so when it becomes your health, there's no bigger priority to me for anyone out there than your health, because that's everything. It affects everything. It affects your relationships. It affects work. It affects how you interact with your kids, significant others, people around you, how you show up. And so it's so important. And I really appreciate that article you wrote.
Thank you very much.
So let's talk about fundraising. I raise a lot of equity for commercial real estate. And I am always enamored with people that fundraise and raise money because you are an expert at it. And I love talking to people that raise equity because something I've been doing for years. How do you go about raising money? And how do people get involved to contribute to your organization? So walk me through, what's the process and who do you go to and who are the targets that support the Momentum organization? Because it's by the way, it's not cheap, these trips. Going to Israel is not a cheap trip. So it's got to be a ton of money you're raising. What do you raise every year and how do you do it?
Our annual budget this past year was $18.5 million.
Okay.
So I want you to appreciate that you're saying I'm an expert fundraiser. I just had to hold back from laughing because I know that's the way people look at me, but I'm so not an expert.
Well, wait a minute. Time out. We need a little self-love for Lori Palatnik. I mean, you are impacting women's lives.
I definitally am. And I do raise millions of dollars a year.
You are great at doing this.
Okay. But
let's show some love to you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. But I'm an educator and I'm a communicator. And I believe that God gave me a gift for it. But when these 8 women started in 2008, we started this organization. It used to be called the Jewish Women's Renaissance Project. And now it's Momentum. So nobody wanted to raise the money. Some of them wanted to give the money, but nobody wanted to raise it. So I wasn't a fundraiser, but I figured wow, the first 3 letters are fun. Okay, I'll try. So I figured I'll do it. What's the worst thing that can happen? I don't raise it, but I tried. And I said, I'll be the place card until we hire a professional fundraiser. My first year budget was $750,000. And I'm thinking where am I going to get $750,000? That was in 2008. That was a lot of money. It's still a lot of money, but 2008, that was a lot of money. In the worst economy since the Great Depression. That's when we started. So I just went out. I tell people, they ask me actually, I gave a seminar recently to a group of observant Jewish women who are all head CEOs of nonprofits. And they said, could you teach us about fundraising? I said, you can't learn anything from me. I go to people with money and I ask them for it. Okay. They go, no. We want to hear from you. So then I wrote down all the things I learned. And it turns out it ended up being a 2-part series. A lot of it was in Hebrew, it's kavanah. Okay. It's your mindset. It's how you look at it. It's really like just the philosophy of it. I don't look at it like I'm snoring or like that I'm giving people an opportunity to change the world, to change lives. And I'm giving that person the opportunity to have eternity. You're not just going to change your lives now. You're going to take this with you for eternity. It's like you had a hot stock tip and you didn't tell anybody. Like, I have something that if you invest in this, the ROI, the return on your investment is beyond your wildest dreams. And if somebody says, no, I don't feel bad for me, I feel bad for them. You don't want to share in this? Also, I know that it takes merit to be part of this. And if they don't have the merit, somebody else will have the merit. If God wants this to happen, it's going to happen. I have grown tremendously through getting the courage, and it still takes courage. It's hard and it's constant. It never ends because we keep growing. And so it's a constant thing. I've met the most amazing people through fundraising, people I would never meet in my wildest dreams, and they're most amazing people. And not only do they support us, I often am able to help them with certain things in their lives and what's going on, but amazing people. And if my budget this year was $750,000, I'd be like, woohoo! Like, I'd be sitting around, like we have all the time in the world to schmooze.
I think a lot of women
millions of dollars. If somebody would have told me one day I'm going to have to raise millions of dollars, I would have said, I'm out. No. But God was like a little, we just started and it grew and grew and it grew. And now I'm only one of a team. I'd be the only one. I used to do everything except drive the bus. Like I led all the trips. I raised all the money. Now we have 60 people working for us and there is a team that raises the money. I'm still responsible for a lot of it. And it's still not easy, but it is really a privilege. And the Torah says that the person who asks gets more reward than the person who gives. That it's a greater mitzvah to ask than even to give. Why? Because you're giving people an opportunity. And it's not easy to do. It's not easy to ask.
Well, I think also is when you have a responsibility, when you have a gift, you need to offer it to the world, which is what you have. You create an impact. You change the DNA of families, which creates legacies, which is really amazing. People might not understand that out there, but what you do is you change a family and the legacy and the DNA that gets passed down from your efforts. And you should be very proud of yourself for all your hard work. This is an incredible organization. And what a blessing you give to women out there. And
thank you. I do want to say that, you've got these words behind you. Okay. I own it. Mm-hmm. People often, when they interview me or when I speak in front of groups, they ask me like, what's the secret to my success? Mm-hmm. And I tell them 3 words: I'm all in.
Oh, I love that.
I believe that's the secret to success in marriage, the secret to success in parenting. I'm all in. We might be going through a rough time now. It's the secret to success in business. Maybe we're going through I'm all in. I'm not going anywhere. I'm all in. And I think that spills over when I ask people to support momentum. They know that I'm passionate about it, that I'm all in, that I'm living and breathing it. And if somebody came to you and they want some venture capital money for something, if that person who's asking you is living and breathing it, you're going to support them because they're going to make it work. They're going to make sure it succeeds.
What a great comment. And for everyone out there listening, it's the absolute truth. Where you put your energy in is where you're going to see some output. And let's talk business. If you're going to start a business or an entrepreneur out there and you're listening to this show, and we have an entrepreneur on the show, and Lori Palatnik, you have to be all in. You have to be committed and focused. It's something I consistently preach at Alliance, and it's something I preach outside Alliance to my company. if you want to achieve your goals, you have to be all in on whatever situation or whatever relationship or business, your significant other, your kids, colleagues, whoever. You have to be all in. And what a great point. I'm very grateful you brought that up because it's such a wonderful point. Let's talk about the show, I Own It. So it's being responsible for every aspect of your life, which you are. And we are all works in progress, Lori, and you know that. And we continue to work on ourselves. Share a recent example where Lori Palatnik, you realized, I don't own it. What was that moment where you didn't own it fully?
It's an excellent question. I'm trying to think of a time when I was just, one of our kids went through a hard time. They went through a hard time. And I remember there was a point where I thought maybe it's just not going to work out for this kid. Maybe they're just never going to get married or they're never going to find themselves. And it's just going to be a constant, struggle for that person, for them. And this one kid went through a big crisis. And 4 weeks ago, this child got married. And when I stood under that chuppah in Israel, I just have to tell you that the idea that I would not think that it would come to this day, I felt ashamed. And when I finally gave it to God, because I did everything I could practically to help, and then I just gave it to God, and God's all in with us. Sometimes we give up on ourselves, we give up on our spouse, we give up on our kid. God never gives up on us, ever. God's all in. So I think that there are times where we get discouraged. And I have a friend she has a couple of kids who are going through a rough time. And she said that when our kid got engaged, it gave her so much hope that it's possible that it doesn't always have to be this way. And I want to tell anybody who's watching or listening that everybody goes through stuff. And no matter what you're going through right now, it won't always be like this. It won't always be like this.
This shall pass, as I say, right? This shall pass.
This shall pass. This too shall pass. But you have to know when you ask God to help you, anything's possible. We're limited people. God's unlimited. And when I really gave it to God, I saw miracles. Literally the splitting of the sea. I saw miracles, miracles, miracles.
Wow. I am floating right now from this conversation. I'm feeling really holistic and spiritual. So thank you for making my day here. What if our listeners want to learn and get more involved with Momentum? What do they do? What do you suggest they do?
So the best thing is to go to our website, momentumunlimited.org. momentumunlimited.org. First of all, you'll see lots of, even if you don't qualify for one of our trips, there's tons of podcasts and webinars and articles and things that hopefully will inspire you and you'll be able to share. But if you do, or somebody you know qualifies for one of our trips, these trips are game changers.
Oh,
game changers. The women say, except for having children, this was the greatest experience of my life.
Oh, that's wonderful. So we're going to wrap up with our 3 questions, and I've been waiting for you to come on. Are you ready? By the way, if you're ever in Laguna Beach, California, you have an open door policy to come in the studio. I would love to interview you in person.
I would love that. Love that.
You are a dynamic, intelligent, sophisticated woman. What a treat to know and talk to, and what a privilege. And so if you're in studio with me, we have a couch, and I would say, Lori, get on the couch, lay down, close your eyes. I'm going to ask, because we do all our guests, how old are you?
62.
62. You're a young 62-year-old, dynamic, beautiful woman. And you're laying on the couch. And I said, roll back to when you were 16 years old.
Wow.
And you can give yourself advice and all the knowledge and the experience and all the incredible, talented people you've met so far in your career. What would you tell your 16-year-old self to give advice if you can go back?
I would tell my 16-year-old self, stop worrying. Most of what you worry about is never going to happen.
Yeah.
And if it does happen, you'll be able to handle it. Worrying is destroying your life. It is taking away from the only reality, which is being here, being present. Just be here. God will take care of the future.
What a great message. And being present is so important. Don't focus on the past, folks, or the future. You can't control the future. The only thing you can control is in the moment. And right now I'm in the moment with you, Lori, and that's what we're worrying about. And you can't worry about what's going to happen an hour from now, a week from now, a year from now. You got to live your life, because life will pass you underneath your feet if you don't. So it's our last day on earth. God forbid. It's just me and you, kid. And it's our last meal. Your choice. What are we eating and what are we drinking?
I would love a hearty bowl of soup with chunky vegetables and grains. Healthy, yummy, hot, comforting. And we're drinking tea with honey and lemon. Because these are things that when I was sick, when I was a little girl, that's what my mother would make. She would make soup and tea. Those are comfort foods. And if it's our last day on earth, let's go out with comfort.
Okay. I love that. So in our Laguna Beach studio, we have a grand piano, we have drums and a drum set, and we have electric guitars and acoustic guitars. If you're sitting in studio with me and you could bring in any musician or band to play us a song, they could be living or deceased, your choice. Who are you bringing in studio with us to play us a song, and what are they playing us?
Jim Croce is singing Time in a Bottle.
Okay. Awesome. Great choice. Lori Palatnik, what a treat. And thank you so much for coming on today. If you're interested in listening to more episodes just like this one with Lori, feel free to drop kick that right hand button and click subscribe. Also, feel free to click the like button. The more likes we get, the more incredible content and knowledge we could drop to more people out there in the universe. Also, to learn more about me, go to benreinberg.com. You can follow me on all social media platforms and learn our upcoming coursework on how we can create wealth in your life and build a legacy through learning about commercial real estate. If you want to learn more about my company, go to alliancecgc.com. Feel free to log on. And we are raising money for our brand new Alliance Medical Property Fund. It's one of the best funds out there in the United States. Feel free to log on. If you are interested in passive investing and you're a credit investor, please reach out to us. We can make you a tremendous amount of wealth. Lori Palatnik, thank you so much for coming on the show. What an inspiration. I am so inspired by what you have to say and what you continue to do. Keep inspiring women out there. Keep promoting what you do. And I encourage everyone, keep following Lori. Lori, thanks again for joining us today.
It was a pleasure, Ben. This was one of the best interviews I've ever had, really.
Oh, thank you. I'm so grateful for you to be on.
Thank you for listening to the I Own It podcast with Ben Reinberg. To hear our past episodes and connect with Ben, visit benreinberg.com.